Would you please now welcome the New South Wales Health Minister, the Honourable Gillian Skinner, Red Kite Ambassador and Elder Statesman of Australian Journalism, Mr Chris Masters, and representing our sponsors for the John Newfong Award, Coles New South Wales Operations Manager, Peter Walker. Make them welcome.
Thank you, Ellen. It's a great pleasure to be here, not only as the New South Wales Health Minister, but also as a former journalist. I was talking to somebody today and said, look, when you start your life as a journalist, you stay one forever. I'm very proud of both of those roles. But before I talk about the John Newfong Awards, I'd like to introduce Chris Masters to talk about Red Kite. Red Kite is something that's very important to me as Health Minister. It's an organisation, of course, that provides support for families where they're going through the trauma of a loved one with cancer. And last year I was able to announce a donation of $10,000 on behalf of the government from the health budget, and I'm happy to do so again today. So we announced $10,000 towards Red Kite. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks, everyone. Very proud to be here on behalf of Red Kite. Proud to see my sister Deb receive an award earlier. There's a Masters for every occasion. My daughter Claire is also here tonight, now working with Mike Baird. Many of you will know Claire. My mum Olga, who was a journalist at the Manly Daily, would be very proud. My association with Red Kite speaks to the value of an organisation. I know it well. As a young journalist working in a regional community, my wife Tanya and I got that worst possible news that our daughter Alice had been diagnosed with cancer. At a time like this, your life turns inside out, upside down. Every effort that you can make is on behalf of your child. We had to leave my job and come and camp by the bedside at the oncology ward here in Sydney. And that's why I know the value of an organisation like Red Kite. In journalism, we know the easy story is the story of sending the kid to Hollywood, the kid who's been diagnosed with cancer. The hard story is actually providing those basic needs, flying Granny in to look after the siblings, making sure the gas bills and all the other ancillaries are paid for. And I'm pleased that that is what Red Kite attends to. So your support, Kennedy Foundation support of Red Kite is most appreciated. The support of the Minister certainly appreciated. The support of all of you more so. Thank you.
The New South Wales Government has a very strong policy on closing the gap in many aspects, but also, of course, in health. And even though we've made some quite outstanding advances in things like infant mortality rates, where it's almost closed that gap already, there's still a great deal that we need to do to provide equality in outcomes for Indigenous brothers and sisters. So I'm very proud to be involved in announcing these awards. The nominees are Jessica Gruhl of the APN News Desk, Paul Daly of The Guardian, and Catherine Clifford, ABC Tamworth. And the winner is Paul Daly, The Guardian.
Paul Daly's solid, informative story of the bone collectors was engaging and superbly written, highlighting painstaking research. He spent many months of archival excavation to uncover what he calls the sordid and very distressing truth about the local and overseas trade in Australian Indigenous body parts from the time of white settlement to the middle of the 20th century.
Hello, I'm not Paul Daly. I'm his editor, Emily Wilson. But Paul can't be here for family reasons, but he said that in the unlikely event he won, he'd like me to read this out. He says that it's a great honour to win an award dedicated to the coverage of Indigenous Australia, a country whose hardship and triumph, whose long and proud colonial history and whose terrible tragedies and trials is too often relegated to our cultural margins. I'm very proud to win this on behalf of Guardian Australia. This award illustrates our strong commitment to telling the true stories of Indigenous Australia.
Now she's staying away, 'cause she's got some best to give.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Teresa Ticehurst and 9 News chopper pilot Dave Wilson to present the award for Outstanding Television News Camera Coverage, named in honour of Gary Ticehurst and sponsored by the 9 Network.
I first started flying in television in 1980, and very early in my career, the news director at Channel 10, Tom Barnett, came up to me and he congratulated me on some aerial filming that I'd been involved with. And I've got to admit, I was wondering why he would do that. I thought I didn't actually shoot it. I just provided the cameraman with a platform from which he could shoot. Anyway, I realised later just how codependent the relationship between pilot and cameraman was, especially when this partnership is established on an almost daily basis in the game called news gathering. The cameraman has to put his trust in the pilot, not only to put him in the right position, but to do it safely. He is then able to concentrate on his primary task, which is hopefully capturing that magic image. The pilot, on the other hand, he knows that if he does his job well and he puts the cameraman in that correct position, he will receive the reflected accolades for the team effort. It's almost symbiotic. It is fitting, therefore, that this acknowledgement of excellence will be awarded obviously to a cameraman tonight, but it will honour one of the most respected of film pilots, our colleague and my friend, Gary Ticehurst. Yep. The nominees tonight for the most outstanding television news camera coverage are Paul Walker, 7 News. Ilan Coven Frank, 9 News. And the third shared between Paul Balsfield and Paul Walker. We're 9 News and 7 News respectively. And the winner is Paul Walker, 7 News.
Paul Walker's coverage of Jordan demonstrated fantastic camera work and editing, highlighting the desperation of the refugees from Syria. The pictures were interesting, integrating handheld shots and close-ups on the faces of the children. Congratulations to Paul on his back-to-back victories at the Kennedys.
Wow, thank you. Most importantly, firstly, Pennells is hiding here somewhere, so I have to mention his name, but we'll leave him out because he always gets mentioned. But Richard Cunningham, this man here is the absolute darling of our newsroom. He's the guy who just, whenever I know a story is going to be done right, the guy who writes a story, he puts a story together, and I would really want to thank him for being here because he came together and he had the passion that Steve and I were able to put the story together, and he made it happen. So I'd like to thank you for that. But I also want to thank Rob Raschke, the guy who actually allowed us to do these stories, who's allowing 7 to push our stories a little further and make commercial news where some of my colleagues sort of wondered what we were doing and what we were doing over there. Well, I'd like to thank him for allowing us to do that. So thank you, everyone.